When we invited our panelists and presenters, we said to them, we want to create an accessible way of talking. You can give a TED talk, you can use a lecture, you can have someone to ask you questions, you can just have a fireside chat. And true to the conversation that we're about to have with Christina, she goes, I'm working 60 hours a week at the moment. How can you set me up for success? And I said, what do you need? And what did you say?
That I don't have 8 minutes of polished content that I can just share with you. So can we have a conversation?
And we can, and we do work together quite a bit. You're always juggling more than one things. And you have 3 children, and you've been quite open about your recent diagnosis in autism. So how does all that create the success that you are? Because when somebody just looks at what you've achieved and what you're constantly doing, one would say she's a great success, she's a powerhouse, and she makes it look so easy.
Yeah, it's really not easy. If anyone knows me, I'm a big proponent of investing in young people. I don't really care if you have the skills or the experience, but if you've got the willingness to learn and your attitude is there, I would invest. So my first startup or social enterprise was connecting young disadvantaged students with free skill building opportunities. I was looking for a UX designer to design the platform, and we had a 17-year-old in high school go, this is my portfolio, I've just redesigned your site, would you hire me? And we brought him in, and he ended up designing the whole platform, and we actually secured $1 million for that project. So I think that kind of encompasses my worldview on we don't really know what's out there. There's no certainty, and you kind of just have to juggle all of the things because you don't actually know which ball is the one that's going to lead to the greatest return on investment, which makes life really difficult because it means you're constantly juggling.
But is it a direct correlation with your neurodiversity as well, that wickedness of your system? Or do you think that everyone juggles?
I think it's a choice. Some people work very well by creating boundaries, so work and life. And I think I approached that scale when I was young and then became quite guilt-ridden with anxiety when I felt like 80% was work and 20% was life. But really, it actually blends. Like if I work on something like a social enterprise that brings me joy, that has underpinning values and guiding principles, I then have those conversations with my friends. Like I've got friends who work for accounting firms or others, and they don't want to talk about work when we're out. I love talking about work, and I can go on for hours. Oh, and that's my phone and my boss calling. I should turn that on silent. But there is a weave here where there's so much about my home life as well. I take my kids to go and visit social enterprises, and I teach them about what that is. Recently in Sydney, there is a founder, Sean Chrissy David, who runs Play It Forward. And whenever there is a international crisis or event, he sets up a restaurant and hires people from that country. So there's one restaurant where he only hires Ukrainians. And you walk past his restaurant and it's got the most delicious food, and you wouldn't even know that the background of that is training and hiring refugee and migrants. He partnered with the 2024 MasterChef winner and created this lunch. And I just brought my girls and just taught them about the kitchen, the refugee and migrants, and why they're so talented in creating food. And then that feeds into my work. And so there is this really beautiful kind of synergy between the two that I've been able to achieve in my life that makes the juggle possible.
If you were to look back at 5 years ago, what is different now? And what were the milestones since you were the university age? Because as I said before, you're such a successful entrepreneur. How did you get there? What were you thinking when you were a student? Did you know you'll be doing that? Do you have a plan? Or were you just juggling studies and it just happened organically?
No, I didn't know. And in university, I think marks were very important, getting through the degree and getting that piece of paper. And then I even got to a point where I was applying for graduate roles at Goldman Sachs and accounting firms. Like, I don't think I knew. And I ran down a path. But then there was a turning point where I had an advisor that taught me about reframing. So it's less to do with having that kind of perfect outcome, but along the way, what are you learning? What's the progress and what's the impact that you're creating? Even if I run a business for 5 years and that business closes, it's not really a failure, because across the 5 years, I may have helped thousands of young people. And until I was able to embrace that, I think I was constantly chasing goals, and it was constantly moving goalposts, and it was never good enough. So that's one of the kind of changes in mindset. And then also, what can I control? And then there's also things that happen in life that I can't. And when that gets thrown at me, it's can I do anything about it? If not, then I just have to let go. So it's more of a personal development and growth thing more than anything else.
So what's the key takeaway that you want the audience to take out of your balanced juggle?
There's no balanced juggle. You just have to make sure you don't collapse from juggling. I would say the example that comes to mind actually when you mentioned that is when I was 21, I used to work with high school females in connecting them with opportunities. So this was like way back. And there were 4 girls that looked at this leadership summit that was run by the Lane Beachley Foundation. 250 female leaders. Julia Gillard at the time was doing the keynote speak, and then you get 2-course lunch at like Shangri-La Hotel. I ended up calling the CEO to go, do you have any sponsored tickets? 5 of us would really like to come. The CEO actually gave 35 tickets, and so we ran an EOI process where we had hundreds of young high school girls apply, and then we narrowed that down to 35. But those 35 girls got to meet Julia Gillard in a private Q&A. They got to attend the leadership summit, and again, this wasn't at the time, but 10 years later, one of them is now the god sister to one of my daughters. Another one is a software engineer poached by like Apple, by CBA. She's so successful as an engineering student. And then the third is she only had, I think, $50 in her bank account at the time. So from a poor, disadvantaged area. But she's now a singer. I won't disclose her name, but on Spotify, she's got 171,000 monthly listens. She's in concerts now. She's got a general manager. And these were women, young women from disadvantaged socioeconomic status locations, right? I would have never predicted that. But at the time, I took it, and it was a lot of work. But then looking back, it was the most memorable thing that's ever happened in my life.
And what's I follow your Instagram, so I can see the change in you. But from what you want to share, what's some of the most recent changes in your way of thinking and the way of balancing things? Because in true autistic form, I'm seeing a pattern in what you've just been describing. I can share with the audience that to this day, Christina calls up big conferences like Sydney by Sydney West and goes, do you have any free tickets for social enterprises, right? Because I can see that just happens in your professional life as well. So,
and last year we got, I think, $800,000 worth of free tickets. Like, it was pretty solid.
Pretty solid. So that's definitely a pattern there. So coming back to you having this amazing career, what is some of the most recent changes in your juggle?
Besides the reframing, I don't think I have stopped the juggle.
Yeah.
And I think I'll continue to. But I've tried to prioritize my home life a little bit more. So when you're running a business, you normally set goals and then key activities, KPIs, and then the roles and responsibilities of different people. That creates structure. So when things go wrong, you can build stuff in to fix it, right? I never really had that for my life, and I've got a partner and I've got 3 kids. And so I started thinking for my home life, what is important as goals? what are the key activities that we actually have to do, who holds what in terms of me and my partner, and then when something isn't working, actually building in time to support that. So now I've got the 2 pillars. But previously, because that wasn't there, I would spend 80% of my time, close to 100, on work, and then everything on the life side would kind of fall to bits.
And how did you do that? Did you put KPIs at home?
Oh, yes, we do have KPIs, yes. We have a calendar, we have debrief sessions at night time. Like, it's a serious gig, I think, to be able to juggle the two. So you put structures in where possible, but then you don't say no just because your plate is full, because, you know, maybe it'd lead to something pretty special.
What's the advice for people that are studying right now? And what would be the advice for social entrepreneurs?
Students studying right now is reach out to people. It's a numbers game. So if you on LinkedIn or even through this session, if you know Kiri or you know myself, you should connect, you should reach out, be quite clear on what it is that you want to learn or get to. And if you meet just one really good person, they would be the connector to all of the other opportunities or resources that exist out there. I'm a big believer in just asking, because you never know where that leads you.
And what about social entrepreneurs or people in the corporate world? What would be the advice there?
Oh, it's a very different advice.
Yeah.
As social entrepreneurs, you need to understand that there's a problem that you're trying to solve. There is no set solution, because the solution continually evolves with time. And so if you're very obsessed with understanding the problems you are trying to solve for the community, it means that you're not tied to a solution. There's no ego there. So when you get feedback, you'll just iterate accordingly and then change the program or the service that you're delivering. But you need to be quite focused on who are you serving, what problem are you trying to solve, and then go from there. The ones who are tied with solutions, like I've got a set product and service, and then I try to market it and I keep pushing that out, that just doesn't work when it comes to social entrepreneurship.
Any final thoughts?
No, just thank you for doing this.
Thank you for being so open and talking about the struggle of, I know that in reframing that, it would be the struggle of perfection, because we've talked about this quite often. And in an academic environment when, you know, we've got high achieving students that want to have that high distinction, you know, it might not always be the best solution to the next step. Perfection is not always perfect.
Agreed, yeah. There's lots of avenues for students. Like, you just need to find your one champion or your one sponsor, and then that paves the way for you. Academics is just, I know we're in a university, but it is one element that can lead you to success.
But it's a university that believes in social enterprise and bringing business in. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.